There was a time in my life when I would wake up every morning feeling like a bystander in my own story. Everything was still happening, work, calls, deadlines, but I was not truly there. Not because I was lost, but because I had let life run on autopilot. No heart, no presence, just motion. Have you ever felt like that? Like you were alive, but not leading your life? Like you are breathing, but every breath lacks the oxygen of meaning? I understand why so many of us are drawn to advice like, do the hard things. Because deep down, we all know that if you want something that truly matters, you have to trade something that truly costs. There is no easy road to a meaningful destination. That is the oldest law of the universe. We stall. We make excuses. We wait for a day when motivation magically shows up. But eventually, the price must still be paid. And you will either pay it with commitment, time, and sweat, or you will pay it with regret. I used to think I needed some big purpose before I could change, but here's the truth. If you are waiting for purpose to show up, you will drown in the waiting, because purpose does not come from outside. It is not hiding in a self-help book. It will not appear at a seminar. It will not fall from the sky in some grand revelation. Purpose is you. You are the purpose, your existence, your breath, your presence. That alone is reason enough to start living with intention. The problem is, if you are not willing to show up without inspiration, if you cannot stay the course when motivation disappears, then you are gambling your future on a coin toss. And no one builds a meaningful life by flipping coins. Discipline, not emotion, is what you can count on every day. That truth is not glamorous, it is not flashy, it will not trend, but it is the foundation. Here is what is strange about people who succeed long term. They do not do the work because they feel like it. They do it because they decided to, no matter how they feel. And when you start living that way, when you act beyond emotion, you do not just take charge of your day, you start rewriting your destiny. You are not lacking purpose. You just forgot that you are the purpose. Let me ask you something. And I want you to answer honestly. Not the right answer, just the real one. When was the last time you sat down and asked yourself, what am I living for? Not while reading a self-help book, not while listening to a podcast. I mean that quiet moment when all the noise fades, when every social mask is off, and it's just you facing yourself. Do you remember? Or have you been too busy trying to become someone that you forgot why you started living in the first place? Don't worry, you are not alone. I used to live like that too, chasing standards set by others, striving for goals. I never truly understood why I needed to reach. I thought I hadn't found my purpose yet, but then I realized I wasn't missing purpose. I was just pulled so far away from myself that I forgot. I am the purpose. The fact that you exist, that you are here on this planet, that you are reading these words right now, was already a clear enough sign. You are here, and you matter enough to begin your journey of change from within. No one else. No miracle needed, just you. With one serious decision. Are you willing to choose that? If yes, I invite you to pause for a few seconds. You don't need to write anything long. Just comment, I'm ready, or even type the number 1 so I know you are truly here. So I know I'm not speaking into the void. Because for me, as a content creator, the most precious thing is not views, it's your real presence. When you type 1, I know someone is out there, a person brave enough not just to listen, but to act. That is where true change begins. Not in loud resolutions, but in quiet moments when you dare to admit, I deserve a meaningful life. Listen, you don't have to do something big, but you do have to do something real. Don't let Annie Nino, even yourself, convince you that you need to have everything figured out before you begin. You just need to begin. Begin with you. From where you are, from the pain and the dreams you thought were forgotten. Because purpose doesn't come from outside. Purpose is when you choose to live with awareness. And if you've read this far, if you've paused, if you've nodded, then you've already started. I see you. I believe in you. See you in the next part where we won't just talk about inspiration, but how to turn inspiration into a system of action. But before we move on, let me know, are you here? Are you ready? I'm truly grateful that you are. Motivation is emotion. Discipline is the compass. Let me be honest with you. I don't believe in motivation. Not because it's useless, but because it's unreliable. It shows up when you feel excited, inspired, like lightning just struck and everything lights up. But you and I both know that feeling doesn't last. And if you're counting on it to change your life, you'll be waiting forever. Because motivation is emotion, and emotions, they change faster than the weather. Don't get me wrong. I have nothing against emotions. I'm a deeply emotional person myself. Emotions have helped me understand who I am. But what I've learned over decades of watching myself and the people around me is this. Emotions should not be steering your direction. They're signals, not the steering wheel. What I choose to hand the wheel to our discipline. Because discipline is something you can build. It doesn't need excitement. It only needs one choice. I will do this no matter how I feel. You know what real freedom looks like? It's not doing whatever you want. It's being able to make yourself do what you know is right, even when you don't want to. And that only comes with discipline. Without discipline, you're a hostage to your own emotions. With discipline, you become the one who leads. I remember a time I had to finish a project in 3 days. I was exhausted, sleep deprived. My mood was crashing. Everything inside me screamed, take a break. It's fine to be late. Everyone procrastinates. But right then, I remembered a line. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And discipline is that system, not the goal. The goal is just the mountain. Discipline is each step. And without the steps, you'll never reach the top. People think success comes from inspiration. It doesn't. It comes from consistency. It comes from the hundreds of small actions you take every day. Actions no one praises, no one sees, but you still do them. Because you know, your future should not be decided by your mood. And if you're still listening right now, I believe part of you already knows this. Maybe you're not fully living it yet, but you know. And now it's time to start living what you know. Start tomorrow morning. Start with a workout you don't feel like doing, but still do. The phone call you want to avoid, but still make. The task you want to postpone, but still complete. Because one day, the result you dream of will come, but only if you showed up on the days you didn't want to. And if this has stirred something inside you, leave a simple sign, hit like, click subscribe. Not just so I know you were here, but so the algorithm keeps bringing you back to this space where we keep the fire alive together. Because the world doesn't need more inspiration. It needs more people who act without needing to be inspired. Pain is not the enemy. It is the silent teacher. We're often taught to avoid pain. As kids, every time we fell, someone would rush over to soothe us, comfort us, teach us how to make the pain go away. And so we grew up with a conditioned belief. Pain is bad, struggle is wrong, hardship is something to avoid at all costs. But here's the truth I've learned. Through the darkest seasons of my life, pain doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to train you. You cannot become a stronger version of yourself without walking through seasons where you feel weak enough to melt. And strangely enough, it's in those very seasons where true strength is born. Not under the spotlight, not in the applause, but in the nights when you face a pain that feels unbearable and still don't give up. Pain may not be something you choose, but how you respond to it, that's completely yours. When you learn to take a step back, observe your pain without reacting immediately, you begin to see that pain always carries a message. It points to something you need to change, something you need to face, or something you need to let go of. And I'm not just talking about physical pain. I'm talking about the mental bruises, the rejections, the moments when you gave your all and still failed, the times when you did everything right and still weren't chosen. That kind of pain runs deeper. It's quieter, and it's real. In those moments, you have two choices, to run or to stay and learn. I've tried both. Running feels easier at first, but it always leads you in circles, bringing you back to the same place, only next time the pain hits a little harder. But when you choose to stay, to listen, to look pain in the eye, you don't get weaker, you get stronger. Because what hurts you doesn't break you. How you respond is what defines who you are. I remember the day I hit mile 70 of a race. My body was breaking down. My back felt like it would snap. Blood in my urine ran down my leg. 30 more miles still ahead. No cheers, no cameras, no one coming to save me. But I kept moving. And in that moment, not when I crossed the finish line, but right there in the suffering, I knew I had already won because I didn't defeat the race. I defeated the pain inside me. The strength you're looking for doesn't live in easy days. It waits on the other side of pain. And if you are brave enough to walk through it, you'll understand something no one can teach you with words. Pain is not the enemy. It is the teacher, silent, strict, but deeply loyal to your growth. No one is coming to save you. But the truth is, you don't need anyone. I'm going to say this, and it might sting a little. No one is coming to save you. There is no hero on their way to change your life. There is no lucky break that's going to fall out of the sky on a beautiful morning and pull you out of the place you feel stuck in. And honestly, no one is obligated to do that. No one owes you anything. Not society, not your parents, not your ex, not your boss, not your best friend, not your circumstances. But you know what's incredible? You don't need them. The truth is, you never did. You just need to accept that you are the only one who can act right now. The truth is, most of us don't fail because we lack opportunity. We fail because we keep waiting for someone else to validate our worth before we begin. We wait for someone to believe in USO, we can finally believe in ourselves. But you cannot wait for permission to live the life you know is yours. That's your job, not theirs. I used to sit in silence for hours, hoping someone would call, pull me out of the emptiness, hand me the answers. But eventually, I realized silence doesn't mean absence. It's the space where you hear your own voice more clearly. And when you really listen, you begin to understand you are not powerless. You've just been waiting for someone who doesn't exist. The day I stopped waiting for someone to change my life was the day I began taking small steps. Not confident, not perfect, but real steps. And with every step, I grew stronger. Not because life got easier, but because I no longer needed anyone else to make me feel worthy. You can learn a new skill, you can change your environment, you can walk away from relationships that drain you, you can begin rewriting your story starting today, but only if you stop waiting for someone else to show up and write it for you. This life is yours. No one else is driving, no one else gets to decide, and no one else is stopping you except you. That's not something to fear. It's the most freeing truth you will ever hear. No one is coming to save you, but you don't need anyone because you are already enough to begin. Redefine your past or let it define you. I used to believe the past was fixed, that it happened, that it was the truth. And the truth can't be changed, right? But then I learned something. You cannot change the event, but you can change the meaning it holds in your mind. And that's where your power begins. I don't know what you've been through. Maybe a painful childhood, a relationship that left you full of doubt, a failure you still can't bring yourself to speak of. But I do know this. The past only holds power when you don't revisit it with intention. You cannot let what happened, no matter how painful, continue to define who you are forever. There's a quote I once heard that changed the way I see life. Memory is not the truth. Memory is your interpretation of the truth. And sometimes that interpretation was written in fear, in pain, in the innocent eyes of a child who didn't yet know how to love themselves. I grew up in a house that didn't feel safe. No one taught me about self-worth. No one told me I mattered. I had to learn that from how I was left behind. And for years, I believed, I'm broken. I'm not enough. But then I realized it wasn't true because it was right. It was true because I kept telling myself that story. So I chose to rewrite it. I chose to see my childhood, not as a sentence, but as a lesson. I didn't erase the pain. I just refused to let it drive. The past is the first chapter, not the final word. And if you don't redefine it, you'll keep living by an old script someone else wrote for you. The heartbreaking truth is, too many people are still living as if they're trapped in what once happened. They behave like the child who was abandoned. They love like the one who was betrayed. They work like the one who was once underestimated. They're not living in the present, they're reacting to the past. But you can pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this still my truth? Maybe it's time to rewrite it. Rewrite what you believe about yourself. Rewrite the meaning behind what you lost. Rewrite the message your past keeps trying to send, not in the voice of a victim, but in the voice of a survivor. No one else can do that for you, but you can. And when you do, you will no longer live in the shadow of what happened. You will live as someone who chooses light, even with a past that once felt dark. And that is where freedom begins. Silence trains you. Let me tell you something that not many people talk about. Most of the biggest battles you'll ever fight won't happen in front of others. They'll happen in silence, in your head, in your room, alone. You may have friends, family, mentors, even a whole team behind you. But in the end, the most important decisions, turn left or right, start over or give up, forgive or hold on error made in a small room inside your own mind. And in that place, it's quiet. What I've learned is this, that very silence, if you know how to face, it will become the place where you are refined. Silence is not emptiness. It is the space where you begin to hear more clearly, to hear your true voice, to hear fears that are no longer covered by noise, to hear again the reason why you started when everything outside seems to have stopped cheering you on. But here's the hard part. Most of us are used to sound. We play music while working. We stream videos so we don't feel alone. We jump into conversations just to avoid sitting with ourselves. Because silence reveals what noise often hides. We're not truly at peace. And yet, the paradox is this. You will never find that peace until you learn how to sit in silence. No distractions, no escape, just you with yourself. The most disciplined people I've ever met aren't the ones who run every morning or journal every night. They're the ones who can sit in silence, no phone, no sound, and not be afraid of their own mind. Because once you learn that, you become unshakable. Others may get lost in the noise of the world, but you won't, because you have a place to return to within. I used to think peace came when everything outside was calm. But the truth is, peace came when I no longer needed the outside to be quiet for me to feel calm inside. Even when the world was loud, I could still hold the quiet within me. You don't need to be loud to be strong. You don't need to react to prove you exist. Sometimes real strength is shown in your ability to stay silent and respond with intention. And if you're in a season of life right now that feels too quiet, even lonely, don't rush to judge it. It may be the very place where you are being trained in silence for something greater you cannot yet see. Don't fear the silence. It is not empty. It is full of potential you've never touched. And only when you learn to be still with yourself will you truly be ready to step out and lead in the world out there. Anger is the voice of the ego. Silence is the voice of wisdom. I used to believe that in order to be respected, you had to speak up immediately. React fast, hit back harder. If someone pushes, you push back maybe even twice as hard. But the more I lived, the more I experienced, especially in legal disputes, the more I realized reacting strongly doesn't mean you're strong. It just means you've been triggered. The ego loves that. It loves being right. It loves having the last word. It loves the feeling of winning. But in the end, do you ever truly win? I remember sitting in an extremely tense meeting. A colleague completely misunderstood me and started attacking. I could feel the anger rising, you know, that heat in the back of your neck, the clenched fists, the racing heart. My ego stood up in my mind, fire back. You can't let that slide. But I paused, just 3 seconds, took a breath, looked at him, and asked myself, am I really being disrespected? Or does my ego just feel threatened? The answer was, clear it, was my ego. When you start to see anger as a signal, not a command, you begin to reclaim your power. Anger isn't evil, it's instinct. But if you let instinct lead, you'll always live in reaction mode. And a person who lives in reaction mode can never truly lead themselves. Timely silence is not weakness. It is a form of intelligence, because it takes wisdom to know when not to fight a battle that doesn't need to be won. You can stay silent and still hold your boundaries. You can take a step back without losing. Because sometimes what you most need to protect isn't your pridates, your peace. There is a kind of strength, very few people develop the strength to sit with your emotions and not let them drive your behavior. Every time you do that, you're rewriting the script your ego once controlled. You're proving, I have the power to choose my response. I am not a victim of temporary emotions. The older I get, the less I judge people by what they say when they're calm and more by how they respond when they're triggered. The more grounded someone is, the less they need to raise their voice, because they understand, I don't need to win every argument, I just need not to lose myself. And to do that, you need a pause, a breath, a choice. Anger is the voice of the ego. But wisdom knows how to stay silent and wait for the right moment. And the person who masters Thathas already won, even without saying a single word. Write your own life manifesto. We spend so much of our time following someone else's plan, the boss's meeting schedule, the company's deadlines, the expectations of family, the responsibilities to our community. And in the middle of it all, we keep moving forward without ever stopping to ask, whose values am I really living by? I used to live that way, working hard, completing every task, doing everything right. But by the end of the day, I still felt empty. Not because I wasn't good enough, but because I wasn't living by a design of my own. I was just filling the spaces that others had left. Until one day, I sat down not to make a work plan, but to do something far more important, to write my personal life manifesto. One sentence, not a cliche. Not be successful, be rich, be famous. But the answer to a deeper question, who am I and who do I choose to become, no matter the circumstances? I wrote, I am the one who keeps peace even when the world is in chaos. That sentence is simple, but every time I feel angry, tired, ready to give up, I return to it. And it reminds me of the person I've chosen to be not the person my temporary emotions try to turn me into. If you've never written your own life manifesto, you might be living in the gray zone, not wrong, but not clear either. You might be working hard, yet still feel lost. You might hit big goals, yet not feel proud, because none of it connects to who you truly are. Writing one defining sentence is a powerful act. It turns vague values into a clear compass. It transforms your everyday actions into expressions of your personal mission. And once you have it, you start living like a closed-loop system. You don't need others to give you direction. You already have an inner compass. Your manifesto doesn't need to be clever. It doesn't need to be philosophical. It just needs to be true for you. Some people write, I will live kindly, even when no one is watching. Others write, I will no longer let fear decide for me. What about you? What truth will hold you steady when everything else shakes? What will remind you, I wasn't born to react, I was born to lead? You can change many things, your job, your environment, the people around you, but when you write your own manifesto, you change something deeper, the quality of each day you live, because you're no longer wandering. You begin to live with direction, with alignment, with an anchor. And from that moment, everything you do begins to carry meaning. You don't need to do extraordinary things, but you must live in an extraordinary way. We often get caught in the illusion that our life only matters if we achieve something big, something extraordinary, as if, unless we change the world or do something legendary, then everything we do in our ordinary days becomes small and meaningless. But you know what? That's a trap that makes you overlook every steady step, every right choice you're already making, just because it isn't loud. I've met so many people with powerful hearts, and yet they still feel like they're not enough. They live with kindness every day, but feel small because they're not in the spotlight. They endure hardship with quiet strength, but think they're not special. But here's what I know for sure. Living true to your values in a world that constantly shifts, that is already extraordinary, you don't have to do something great, but you do have to live with strength. You don't need the spotlight, but you do need to protect your inner light, because real power doesn't live where everyone's watching. It lives in the places no one sees. In the moment you choose to stand up after falling when no one is there to applaud. In the early morning when you still get out of bed, though, you're exhausted. In the promises you keep to yourself when no one's checking. That is what makes the ordinary extraordinary. That's how you declare, I'm not here for applause, I'm here on purpose. And if someone asks me how to recognize a truly strong person, I won't talk about how fast they run, the title they hold, or how much they earn. I'll talk about how they keep going when no one is cheering, how they still choose what's right when wrong would be easier, how they walk their path each day, not for recognition, but because they know I'm not here to impress, I'm here to live true. So if you've ever thought you're too ordinary to make something meaningful, let me invite you to think again. The world doesn't need more people doing strange things. The world needs more people doing the right thing over and over again. You don't need to do extraordinary things, but you must live in an extraordinary way. That means living with awareness, with discipline, with non-negotiable personal values, and above a living as if you are the living proof of what you believe in, because you are. You are the proof. You are the story being written, and you are the one holding the pen. If you've stayed with me until now, I want you to know this. You have not walked this journey alone. Every word I've shared, every part I've told you was never meant for you to sit still. It was meant to help you stand up, not in a rush, not in perfection, just to begin with yourself, right where you are, with a heart that truly wants to change. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to become you, the version that is steady, awake, and intentional each day. That alone is already a victory. I know there will be days you don't want to get up, days you'll feel like slipping back into your old patterns, moments filled with doubt, fear, and loneliness. But please remember, every strong person I've ever met has lived through days like that, and they didn't quit. So if you feel tired, rest. But don't abandon yourself. Look at how far you've come. Return to the life manifesto you've chosen and keep going. Because while I can't walk the road for you, I believe with everything in me, you have what it takes to keep going. Thank you for giving your time, your energy, your presence, just with your eyes, but with your heart. I wish you peace in your mind, strength in your spirit, and courage in every small action. Life doesn't ask you to be perfect. It only asks you to be real. I'll see you again, not in the next video, but in the better version of you that rises each day. Hold tight to your values, don't compromise, and never forget you are the living proof.